I'm enjoying the opportunity to do remote episodes from different places.
Sure. Yeah.
Which has always been super fun.
Yeah.
So what I like to do to start these things off, because this is your first exposure as
first time, guys.
co-host.
First timer.
Yeah.
First timer.
As I do typically a joke, right?
Okay.
And so typically when I open up with the jokes,
Mm-hmm.
I'll very often end up going to ChatGPT
Nice,
and
of course.
asking it to help me come up with a clever joke. Usually the joke is absolutely terrible. I have to somehow rework it and figure out how to tweak it, because a lot of the times it's just like make an accounting joke that has to do with the theme of the episode.
Of course. Okay.
And a lot of the times it just takes an accounting term and just shoves it into a kind of cheesy already dad joke. So it still has the shortcomings when it comes to the humor. But this time what we're trying to do, because thematically this episode is going to be AI focused, I decided let's do a joke written by humans this time.
Okay.
So written by our very own producer, Josh Glassman, actually
right.
originated this.
Okay.
So we're trying this out and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So what did the pirate say to the robot after handing off control of the helm?
I have no idea.
AI, Captain.
That's actually not too bad.
Right?
It's not too
pretty
bad.
good. I got to say, our producer, Josh Glassman, is a pro at puns.
Yeah.
He's known for that. He does this.
It shows. It shows.
Yeah.
Talented guy.
But it's one of those things where it's like, it just shows that, there's going to be that shortcoming. There's still that gap of like the semantics of it when it comes to the AI. And
it's that last mile.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And especially with the creative stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
There's people, I think, associate creativity with, for example, like photoshopping something together. That's a different meaning of creativity. That's in the arts. It's art, right? Yeah. But if you're just drawing something, you could tell AI to go draw something, like replicate somebody or swap somebody's face. It is being creative, but in the different sense of like understanding humor, understanding puns, and the different semantics of it. That's a different version of creativity, which...
Yeah, so it's almost like part one is the actual sort of technical drawing, the art, the poetry, analyzing the word flow and all of that. But then part two is the true creativity part, actually creating new ideas. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. But anyway, so that's how I like to kind of start things off. And with that, as I always like to say, let's get flowing.
I love it.
You are now entering FinTech Flo.
So welcome everybody to this special episode of the FinTech Flo. I'm here in New York. I am your host, Drew Carrick, the rapping CPA, producer at FloQast Studios. And I'm here with a very special guest. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, introduce me, right?
Yeah.
How's it going, everybody? Sean Stein Smith. I'm the faculty at Lehman College here in NYC, and I also do quite a bit of work in the AI space, tokenized asset space, and I do have a column at Forbes every week for anybody interested in more of me after our conversation here today, Drew.
So how do you get a spot in Forbes? I want to get a spot in Forbes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, it's a real job interview process.
Yeah.
Right. So you basically email the editor in charge of the track that you want to work in, and then if that person is interested in you, then basically you would have to email them your CV, writing samples, do a phone call interview, and all of that good stuff. So the whole process took me about, I'd say, 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so give us, for those listening, the rest of your sort of background. Everybody's heard me for the last 2 years. So
2 years already. Wow.
Yeah, we're coming up on two full years of the FinTech Flo.
Awesome stuff, Drew. Yeah, so me, I'm currently in academia. I'm a CPA by background. I had been in industry for about 8.5 years, and then after that pivoted over into the academic sort of research advisory role that I am now, but I'm heavily involved in the blockchain space, tokenized asset space, and then really over the last 18 or so months, AI, right? Because AI is influencing every aspect of audit, accounting, tax, blockchain, tokenized assets. And so I am on the board of 2 companies in the space, and I'm also joining a crypto accounting startup right now.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I keep busy, try to always have that one foot in sort of the research side and then one foot in the active side too.
I wonder if that's one of those things, because I find myself very often spreading myself into a bunch of different areas.
Sure,
and I'm wondering if part of that is the nature that we have as accountants being
That
very
could be trying to like understand things.
and
how they all connect.
We want to understand how they connect. We also like to be diversified,
Yes,
right? Not
yeah.
all eggs in one basket.
Jinx.
Is it one of those types of days? No, but I think even in my own house, like I have a different wallet, even though there's not, I have like $100 in 5 different wallets just because I don't know why. I don't know why, but for some reason in my head it makes sense to be like, well, that's my like backup wallet in case my primary wallet goes out. I've got like old driver's license. I'm like, just in case.
Yeah, just in case you need it.
Yeah.
For what? Who knows?
I don't know. But I spread it all throughout the house. So there's like always like pockets that just have like a little bit.
It's like in every room you have cash and ID.
Yeah. Right.
Like a spy almost.
Yeah, a little bit.
Wait a second.
Well, that's the cool thing you can do as in accounting, right?
Yeah, right.
You can become a spy. No, that's awesome. So, I appreciate giving the background. And then I think you have a book that you wrote back in 2020.
Yes. So I had a book come out in 2020, right at the beginning of this AI blockchain stuff. It's published by a big publishing house, Springer Publishing, and I have the second edition coming out. It should be out by the end of 2024. Updated. A full third of the book is entirely new content, talking about how companies are now implementing AI into their operations in a major way, as opposed to in the first edition, just kind of introducing AI, sort of what it is, and obviously these chatbots and large language models had not even come out yet. Yeah. So it's a major update. I'm really amped for it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that to come on out. Yeah. So cool. So I want to jump into the show today. We've got our FinTech 411, which will kind of kick us off with what's the news that's happening up in the FinTech and accounting space, right? So this is reporting from Yahoo Finance. It was actually taken from PC Gamer, and it's a report that claims that OpenAI has burned through $8.5 billion in AI training and staffing and could be on track to make a $5 billion loss.
I believe it.
So, the report claimed that OpenAI had spent roughly around $7 billion on large language models, training and interface, and then as much as $1.5 billion on staffing, which checks out. And then other analysts have estimated that it costs in the order of basically $700,000 per day for ChatGPT to run, just due to the expense of NVIDIA's AI servers. And I think a major issue is, of course, the cost of these AI servers, and is that going to be the limitation when it comes to the ability for AI to be adopted in this sort of capacity? And is this an alarming thing? Are you concerned about this for OpenAI?
So obviously, Drew, right? It's always good to analyze headlines, but any company in any fast-growing space, and don't forget, Amazon lost money for the first 20 years of its operations, right? So OpenAI is obviously the front runner in this large language model chatbot field, and in order to have those things operate, it all costs money. And I think one thing that's often overlooked is that data is not free, right? So for all of us on a everyday basis, I can Google stuff, ask AI, and it's all free to me.
Right.
But to actually host that data and to have the answers come out as advertised and in a way that makes sense, all of that costs money. And to answer your part B in there, is the cost of chips going to be the sort of limiting factor? I honestly don't think so. Honestly, the biggest sort of headwind I see for AI, be it OpenAI or any of them, right, is the quality of the information being fed into these language models. And then 2, do they have the capacity in terms of the human oversight and judgment to make sure that as they try to integrate more and more options, be it video, music, audio, poetry, jokes, do they have the right expertise on staff to make sure that as they're doing that all of those updated answers are actually correct?
Yeah, one of the things that I learned early on, this is predating AI, but it revolves everything, whether it's RPAs and any machine learning and all of that sort of stuff. And I had started, I think, when we first were talking back in 2018, that I was starting on my doctorate in information sciences. That stopped when I stopped working at the college because I was getting tuition remission. But that was a big part of it.
Unnamed college, right?
Yeah, unnamed college. Human computer interaction. And I remember when I was there, the head of the CTO was like, there's an importance. It's garbage in, garbage out. When it comes to every system, the inputs are going to dictate what the outputs are. And 100%. That's really the premise of what all of this artificial intelligence is. And it relies, of course, on that data, which, of course, the battle is, should it be freely accessible, and is it pulling things ethically from all these different sources and all those arrangements? And I don't know, and I'd be really curious to know what went on for the prior 5 years before this model was truly ready and launched, and if there were discussions with the agreements that you'd think that you'd be thinking through all the legal implications and all that. But it almost seemed like it was just like, no, we just have something, we just need to be the first to get it out, and we'll figure it out later
as we go. Yeah.
And I think it's a figure out as you go type of situation now.
And to just add on to your point there, it is really clear for anybody tuning in now or in the future that artificial intelligence is almost a inaccurate term, right? That all of these bots that are currently publicly available, right? DARPA could have something else, but all of the bots out there aren't actually thinking, right? It's intuitive, feels like it's thinking because it's answering your questions as you ask them, but it's only answering questions based on how well we ask those questions and how well it has been trained on the data sets that it sort of grew up on.
It seems like it's really just more so very complex automation, very involved automation.
Absolutely.
And just functions that you just can
Automation's great too.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
But you're just adding on to it, basically.
Right. So there is a little bit, I think, of the false advertising of like everybody claiming every single thing is AI. I thought about this as like a joke was, what if I took the U.S. Post Office and the USPS started a rebrand and they did USPS AI.
.ai.
Like, so right, it's right. So what this is going to enable you to do is through the click of a button, you'll be able to send a message completely electronically to somebody else anywhere in the globe, and it will automatically go there through our special AI, and we're going to call it email.
Drew, that's $1 billion idea.
I think I can get investment.
I think so. These days, maybe.
Right? That's what I mean. And it's just like, it's one of those things where you just hype it on and you just slap an AI sticker on and then call it.
Of course.
Call it AI. So I do think the headline though, on the flip side, the headline here is a little bit of a hype piece.
Of course.
In the actual reality. Yeah, and I mean, so OpenAI is worth around $80 billion as of earlier this year. Microsoft could buy that if they needed to really step in and
if they have to, but they've already, I think, allocated, I believe, $10 billion.
Yeah, I mean they
invest in OpenAI, so
they're deep in. So that kind of takes me into some more headlines, and it kind of has to do with, like I said, a lot of these companies are touting the fact that we've got AI on this thing. And it is one of those just we'll figure it out as we go, because when there's an opportunity to grab money, if you're entrepreneurial minded, if you're in growth minded, you're trying to be super innovative, you just want to take that cash, especially if you're sales minded too. You want to take that cash whenever you can get it, however you can get it. And you'll figure out how to use it later or figure out how to make it work for you. It's just like, let's just get it while it's available. And when investors and VCs and PE were looking to be like, anything with AI we'll give money to, everybody started hyping up AI. But of course, there's the product integrity aspect of it. Does the product actually do the thing that the AI is claiming it does? And two, is it doing it in an ethical way? When it comes to ensuring that one, these products actually do the thing that they set out to do, and then two, of course, ensuring that they're ethically using the application in the proper way. So there's a couple headlines which I thought were interesting here, which we have one from the New York Times, which is AI can write poetry, but it struggles with math.
Interesting.
Which is interesting, right? And the log line is AI's math problem reflects how much the new technology is a break with computing's past. And then, of course, from the Byte, we had ChatGPT voice mode is having serious trouble counting to 100.
That's pretty surprising to me, though, right? Because the automatic thought process around AI is that AI is always going to be, hyper technical, hyper, rigorous in the math sciences. So it's interesting to me, that in two different sources, that the problems aren't with the jokes or the poetry per se, but it's more on sort of the baseline math or the baseline sort of
I think one of the things
technical stuff.
I think one of the things that was interesting is when I was doing the ChatGPT voice mode thing, and I read through that, it was actually typing out the count. It wasn't putting the number itself in, but it was writing the count, which makes me think it's a little bit of a semantics sort of aspect. I think about that even how
it's interesting.
Right now, if I tell DALL-E, for example, to write a word in the image, it doesn't actually know how to write the words, right?
In the picture itself.
Because it's not putting text in, it's drawing the word into it. And a lot of times you'll have a word that has one I in it that'll have two back-to-back I's. H's will look like J's. It's all different sorts of these combinations of things that happen. So I think it highlights that, AI agents are, at the end of the day, of course, they're just software.
Yeah.
And a different version can give you a different answer.
Exactly, right. And so so understanding that is super important for any enterprise who's trying to implement AI or automation at large, right? Is that, to your point, AI is software, and software always has to be updated. And as those updates and as those patches come through, we on the internal control side or on the SOC side have to be on top of that, right? Both internally and for our clients to make sure that as it updates, that all those updates are actually being integrated correctly.
Sure. And the thing is technology, we become so reliant on it.
Oh, yeah.
And we trust that it will always work, but it
doesn't always
work. As we realized,
we just saw,
it's not always going to be something that you can completely rely on.
No.
And I think about, especially with self-driving cars, right?
Yeah.
That's, in one way, you could say that's AI, right? I mean, I'm sure people.
It's a form of AI,
right? It's at least for the way that AI term has been used, right?
It's
sensors, but it's thinking what way it's going to turn on the road, even though you're telling it, of course. So it is very much so a very
like you're telling it where to go and then how to get there. But it's using sensors combined with some Internet of Things technology, 5G stuff to make sure that you actually get there safely.
Sure. And the thing is and this becomes the ethics portion of it, which I'd be really curious how they might teach us in like a conscious capitalism class, right? You have, say, 1 out of every million times that someone's driving the car, it'll have some sort of car accident, right? Which is amazing odds.
Oh, yeah,
but
very
still,
safe.
the one time that it does happen,
headlines everywhere.
It's blamed on AI. Meanwhile, humans, regular people, would be 1 in 100,000. So
I was just in one earlier today.
Yeah, you were in one today.
On the way here today, actually.
So you're 10 times more likely to be the one that causes it, and it's much safer actually to go with AI. Yeah. But the fact that you took human control out of the situation, you'll almost take the fact that a human caused it any day of the week over having it caused by a robot, because it's immediately going to be blamed of whether the technology is bad.
Exactly, and that already happens. That obviously, people are fearful of flying, and they're even more fearful after they find out the human pilots aren't actually flying the plane most of the time, even though by every metric known to man, air travel is always the safest way to travel, but folks have that fear anyway, right? Because even under the best of conditions, you aren't in control, and the humans up front aren't even in control.
Right.
So,
and I mean, the odds of the computer glitching is probably less than the odds of the pilot
having a twitch
or a glitch, right?
Yeah. Cramping up,
right? So it is, but there's still something so weird. If there was one instance where it malfunctioned and the thing tanked and you couldn't move your handrails. I mean, well, that's why there's a 0% tolerance for error when it comes to building planes.
Yes,
this is a Lean Six Sigma principle where 100%. You're all about there is no variation.
There's no margin for error.
No margin for error. No. Especially when you're dealing with human life. So, so on obviously taking that, these are funny headlines. You're talking about, I can't write poetry, or it can write poetry, but it struggles with math, right? But that's the less serious stuff. But there is the more serious stuff when it comes to product integrity. And this is from the Wall Street Journal. It's why AI risks are keeping board members up at night. Company directors are trying to get a handle on artificial intelligence as its use soars, bringing potential productivity gains, but also raising the prospect of employee blunders. Yeah. It's reckless investment at the expense of functionality.
Absolutely, and every new shiny object has this exact same thing. It was big data, business intelligence, blockchain in 2019 or so. Every new tool has this hype cycle, and firms and companies and boards throw money at it, don't train their employees how to use it, and then don't tell them how it's going to change their roles right now and going forward. And so I can have the best tool in the world. I can have the AI operating as advertised, be correct 100% of every task. But if the employees don't know how to use it and they're handling it wrong and they're handing over client data to a third-party AI, all of those are huge risks.
Yeah.
Both internally and for our clients.
There's so many layers to it as well, because you have to think about internal communications to your own company. You have to think about external communications, about how it impacts and affects the brand. Also, I mean, there was a moment in time where people are like, oh, great, CEOs can now speak other languages and talk to employees in other countries. And then you start to pull that back a little bit. And that's kind of a little offensive, maybe. You know, you're
have
playing,
to watch that,
right. So there's sort of like the corporate governance,
of course,
risk, around that too. And then you also have, the legal framework, and that's a whole other world that we think about how long it took for crypto regulation to get in place, and
we don't have any, Drew. That's the problem. That's a whole other episode, folks. We don't have any yet. No, and so I mean, there are ongoing court cases right now arguing through how to treat content created by AI, right? Whose intellectual property is that? And so right now, AI is, I'd say, still very much in early days, but as industries and as companies try to use it, both to your point, internal and external purposes, it is going to create content, create information. And so then how do you handle that? How do you handle charging for that? And then who actually owns that going forward?
Yeah. The concern also, I think, especially when it comes to public-sized companies, is you have obviously the ownership, the IP aspect of it, which is that's a whole world, and especially leans into the arts.
Yes. Absolutely.
But then you also have, this is a factor that's never been a factor before, where it's people are leaning into using AI for decision making.
Yes.
And it's one thing to use it to aggregate data, to provide you analysis, to summarize things. But the moment you start allowing it to be a decision maker, this is an actual concern from the story was talking about, board members being like, well, if our management is making decisions off of this, can shareholders come and bring up lawsuits of, if something goes wrong at the company and you're saying, oh, well, AI did it, and well, who authorized AI to go do it? And that's a challenge that never existed before.
No, and I think that's a real great example of I can use tools to help me, right? At the individual level, at the company level, but outsourcing your brain is always I think, very, very fine line, right? Because you can have all of the tools in the world, and every company from the dawn of time has always embraced new tools to help them automate things and gather data to help them plan. But ultimately, as the management of the company and as the board, it's up to you to actually govern and to manage the company, right? AI is a powerful tool, but it's a tool, right? And so the people involved still have to be the ones ultimately sort of making those longer term choices.
Yeah, and investors and shareholders, especially the ones that have a sizable enough stake to influence.
Oh yeah,
they could. I mean, it's ruthless to the point where if times are great, then you're a hero, and if times go bad, then you're the bad guy, and they'll out you in no problem. And so if you're there's a lot of excitement which comes with, oh no, we're implementing AI, we're using it in all these ways.
To streamline our whatever.
Stock price goes up. But all of a sudden you run into data security issues, privacy concerns, AI-generated errors, all of the potential biases from the AI, all of those things then create this, as soon as things go south, then it's your neck on the line for rushing to it. And so I think that's where you need to have, I mean, if you're a board and if you're a leadership of a company, you have to have a very calculated risk. Again, unless you just don't care and you're just there for the money grab and you're just going after it, then I'm.
They would never say that anyway.
You never say that anyway. Yeah. So that's definitely some of the concerns that I think we have over there. And this final article from here is from Forbes, and it's AI is taking over. This is more accounting focused. Okay. It's AI is taking over accounting jobs as people leave the profession. Both the pipeline of new accounting graduates as well as the retention of existing professionals in the field are, facing major challenges in the accounting sector because experienced accountants are leaving careers in finance, human resources, and banking, also exacerbating the staffing shortage caused by fewer students pursuing accounting degrees as well. And this was reported originally from the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. So the question that comes from this is, could AI make the pipeline worse by discouraging people from entering it?
AI is already having a impact on every aspect, right? The audit side, to your earlier point, the only way to catch AI fraud is with AI audits, right? And so then we ultimately end up having bots basically chasing each other, which is a whole other ball of wax. But AI, it could make the pipeline worse, but I don't think it's going to, right? Because the pipeline has been a issue now for decades. all of us are only now talking about it, but it has been a problem that has been growing. And anybody that I talk to, from interns to staff to managers at the partner level, anybody who is working in the field is trying to use AI to improve their workload, to free up time, to basically make it less of a grind, and to try to cut down on the busy season or those, audit nights working until, 10 p.m. So it is improving the quality of life in the workplace, but I do think that the whole pipeline issue is a much broader problem, right? There are the hours, there's the work, and there's this whole image. So just anecdotally, a person that I know just earlier today, as of our conversation, they actually left a tax partner role.
Wow.
To join some other company in the accounting world. So after working all the way through for almost 20 years, they left. So the pipeline issue in accounting is much bigger than just AI.
Sure.
So it's a whole culture, perception, and obviously the hours and the pay too. Mm-hmm. But people are leaving, people aren't coming in, right?
Sure.
Facts are facts. So how can we use AI to help make our firms and our sort of corporate cultures more enticing?
Sure. I do think it is an agnostic, it's a separate situation.
Yeah.
The pipeline is independent of the AI conversation.
Some dumpster fire.
Obviously, there's definitely, of course, some, hybrid, there's some overlap there. You can't have one conversation without the other.
Yeah.
Or, AI's embedded itself into every conversation. Mm-hmm. But I think when it comes to the issue with the pipeline and AI is really nothing to do with AI and everything to do with the generational outlook of the new generation on the future of the profession and the future of jobs in general. This applies across the board of work. The generations starting with the end of Gen Z, and let's just say Gen Z and younger, they're looking at the future being like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, and is it even worth trying?
Exactly. As AI does everything, then what am I supposed to do?
Right.
As just a regular guy.
Right. Exactly. So it has nothing to do with the accounting profession and everything to do with Gen Z's outlook on that. So I think that's where it's getting conveyed in here, where it's just being part of the same conversation. Where if I'm a prospective individual looking at what the future of my career looks like, well, I'm going to get out. Okay, if I know, AI is going to do my job, then I'm going to get out now and go find something else I can do that it can't take. Or I'm going to not major in it because AI is going to do it eventually anyway, so I don't need to do it. But I think on the flip side, actually, this is the opportunity that AI can actually encourage people to join the accounting profession and encourage people to stay in the profession. Because we think about it, the pipeline existed before AI. The pipeline issue in accounting existed before AI came into the picture.
Correct.
And so people were leaving, and what AI actually has the opportunity to do is become an extra support beam to lessen the workload that's on the few remaining people and the few remaining people going in. So the gap, the difference between all of the work's still going to be there. It's still all got to get done.
More work, actually.
And more work. It gets more complex.
As you have more data and more demand for real-time analytics, that's more work.
Yeah, and so that becomes your foundation of the few people who are left in the profession, and they need help. And we'll still do our best effort to try to get more people into the pipeline,
absolutely,
right?
100%.
We're all going to be working towards that. But
in the interim, there's going to be some sort of trade-off period.
Those people are going to break their backs trying to hold up this foundation unless something else comes in. And in this case, you have a crutch that you can put in there, and it is AI, which now can help be a supporting beam, lessen the workload on yourself, which actually could encourage then, okay, I can handle this. If busy season's not as busy because AI is helping me do some of the work, maybe I stay a little bit more. Maybe I'm the pay, I have some of my time back right now. And so I can work on more strategic initiatives that make me feel more fulfilled. And then if I'm a new student who's coming through the education system, I see, I don't have to do all that boring BS that like my dad had to do when he or my mom had to do when they were early in their career.
Ticking in time.
Right? I don't have to do that anymore. So now I can actually be like, okay.
Jump right in.
Yeah. I can be an accountant, and for the reasons that I wanted to be an accountant, not because I have to do the monkey work that you have to do.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity, I think, for it actually to rather than further creating a problem and discouraging people from entering the profession and worsening the pipeline, I think it actually helps improve the pipeline.
And the whole thing there is that how do we make our field interesting and appealing to have people stay and to get in new people?
Yeah.
And also, don't forget, firms are all under pressure to move from billing by the hour to some value-based model. And so if you're going to do that in any way that makes sense, you are going to have to automate. And AI is a powerful tool to help that pivot sort of get further underway. And it's already happening.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, absolutely. AI, it's going to be a period of transition.
Sure.
But overall, I would say that AI is going to help.
Yeah.
Definitely more than hurt.
So you see that, I see that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people see that.
You all see that too.
But everybody, I think everybody here sees it. But there's still this pervasive message that, of course, needs to get across. This is my personal mission: is helping accountants get the message out there. As a content person, as a creator, my goal is how can we use content, to help the pipeline issue by getting this important message out and getting people on board. Because at the end of the day, we know it because we're talking about it and we're active in that space. But the person who's at the small firm, they might not be thinking that way because their mindset isn't thinking like that. And the people who are in charge of them are kind of maybe disconnected. So that message is not getting through. And nobody's sharing that message. Nobody's evangelizing. So it's kind of a good segue into our next section, which is one of my fun parts, which is called Bearish, Bullish or Bearish. So let's set the stage for this. You let me know if you're bullish or bearish on the content. But first, we'll set the stage with an article from Accounting Today, which says it was an exclusive research done. It was the Arzent report, a research report done for Accounting Today on accounting is reluctant on the AI revolution. And it found that a majority of accountants expect in the next 3 to 5 years that AI will change the nature of their jobs, increase opportunities, and create new roles, which is true. Many expect that their clients' expectations will change as a result of AI, demanding greater cost efficiency, faster and better service, along with delivery and greater privacy. Right. Most think that AI is advancing too quickly, a higher proportion than in what the banking industry would be, because they're fine with that. But accountants are a little more risk averse. But many are concerned that AI will degrade relationships and introduce ethical concerns. And so there's this reluctancy, I think. They see the writing on the walls of what it is, but there's still a reluctancy to accept that this is the truth.
Yeah. And, a big part of that, I think, is that AI is still really this sort of black box, right? That all of us have heard about AI. We hear about it constantly. It's on the news. It's on our phones. Apple has a partnership now with OpenAI. It's everywhere. But how many people actually understand how any of these AI models work and how the large language models actually get trained? And then how that data is ultimately parsed through, and it learns it through billions and billions and billions of just trial and error combinations. So having that black box, I think, and I believe you were, off here talking about this idea of a glass box, right? Having some more transparency to how this automation works and how ultimately AI works. And having that mindset, I think, is a really important part of why people in accounting aren't diving into this automation, right? Because obviously by our nature, by our field, we are, to your point, risk averse, because everything we touch is confidential data. Everything. Be it on the tax side, the audit side, working inside of a company, everything we touch is confidential data. And if you're at a big public firm, it's even more so. And so it honestly comes down to how do we not train people per se, but educate them on how these things work, how they're being integrated, and then what controls are being put in place as we're trying to integrate AI to make sure that, one, that our jobs are still valued, that our tasks aren't going to be fundamentally altered in a way that's going to lower the quality, and three, that our roles are still going to be there. Our role as advisor, be it a tax advisor, business planning, continuity planning, wealth management planning, all of those roles aren't going to go anywhere. AI is going to change those tasks that are part of the current jobs that then feed into those roles. And I think that's the real sort of headset shift that is underway, but it's kind of 2 steps forward, one and a half steps back sometimes.
Well, accountants, especially auditors, right? We're nosy people. We want to do our due diligence.
Just, by default.
Yeah.
That's kind of the job.
We want to be professionally skeptical. We want to do our research. We want to do our due diligence. And a lot of people who are running companies now are actually the millennial generation. And people, I think, often forget that this is...
Are we both in that generation now?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's this demographic of people who are in their late 20s to mid 40s.
Yeah.
That's the people who are the core meat of the company.
Of management.
And millennials, we are Generation Y, right? That's the code name for millennials, is Generation Y. And it's the letter Y, but also WHY.
Why?
We always ask why. Every millennial asks their parents, I got to do that. Why? Why do I have to do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's because we want to know the next layer deep.
Exactly.
Millennials make great auditors for that reason, right? And so the same sort of thing, there's that natural skepticism that comes with AI. And when you talk about the black box, we want to see what's going on inside there.
Exactly.
And that's a millennial trait. And then take that the fact that millennials are like that in general and want to have an understanding of how it works and understand the intricacies, and then pile on the fact that you have millennial accountants now who are the decision makers. They're looking even further in depth. I mean, that's the most professionally skeptical of the professionally skeptical people.
Generation, yeah.
So they're going to require the most due diligence, which will, of course, make you need to move a little bit slower, be a little bit more cautious, because we've seen how things pan out if we have no idea.
Or
don't pan out.
Per se.
Yeah. So I do think it is valid. And that brings me to the bullish or bearish concept. So will we see widespread adoption of AI from accounting firms actually over the next 3 to 5 years? Because they're talking about it. And so are we bullish that accountants will actually get on board in the next 3 to 5 years? Or are we bearish on, is it going to kind of continue at the rate that it currently is? And this does the article that I'm pointing to here is from CFO. 73% of accounting firms are not using AI. And that's as of right now.
Yeah.
So 3-year outlook, we bullish on, is it going to be 50% or is it going to be, there's only 5% or 10% left, right? Like, I mean, I would be okay with, we're at a trajectory, right, where it's a couple years, we're at 75%, we're at 73%.
Yeah.
Is it going to be just 50% in 2 years, or is it going to be down to, there's only 10% of firms not using AI?
I'm bullish on it. And I'm bullish on it for the following reasons. AI is going to become more pervasive in our clients' businesses. And so even if we don't understand it, don't believe in it, don't quite like it yet, if our client base is using AI, we are by default going to have to get better at it and start using it. 2, for anybody trying to exit the field, trying to sell the firm, merge the firm, and don't forget the average age of the firm owner or firm partner has been going upwards, and it's got to be in the high 50s to the low 60s at this point. So for anybody out there trying to exit the field via sale, acquisition, merger, in order to have a growing book of business, you are going to have to attract people that are in their 20s, in their 30s, who are more comfortable and more interested in using AI. So then on the client side, there's pressure. On the pipeline side or on the intake side, there's pressure. And 3, if we have fewer people right now, as we're trying to fix the pipeline, but over the next 5 to 10 years, if we go through like a little drop in headcount of people in the field, that work still has to be done. And ultimately, AI and automation are the really only options left for us. If in the interim, there aren't enough bodies to do the work, firms are going to have to automate. And also, just don't forget, you are able to automate and save time on those tasks that your employees don't like and your clients hate paying for.
Sure.
So on all of that, I'm bullish.
Right. So you think, they'll act, they'll get the act together, and they'll act. And is it a force of hand situation, or is it
they might not like it, but they're gonna but they are gonna move forward, and it's gonna happen, I think, faster than what other folks think.
Sure. I also think there's a cool opportunity if I'm young and upcoming, and I do want to take advantage of the fact that there are these individuals who will be looking to exit and pass along the book of business. If they haven't implemented AI, that I would try to get that at a discount, and then you can immediately make an impact to grow that business right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so I think there's also the opportunity for somebody who does step into power, if the people who are doing it wanted to keep doing it the old way until the last day, and it just worked for them.
Yeah.
But day one, you get into office. Day one, you become in charge of the firm, and you're able to. If you're studying at least up on it and you're keeping up to date on AI, and it's just once I'm in the position of power, I can go make this thing happen, and I know it will make an impact tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's a huge opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I wanted
to know somebody offline who actually did that, basically.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And that's what you have to do, right? You have to take that approach where the entrepreneurial minded individual will think, how can I take this existing business
and grow it, make it better, make it grow.
Right. And using that innovative approach and taking advantage of technology. So there's a major opportunity.
Yeah.
Which is, again, the message that I want to get across to people in the accounting profession
100%.
is that there's a lot of opportunity to do stuff with this because of the, for lack of a better term, like lack of competition.
Yeah.
Because you have less people going in that field.
Yep.
A girl I'm friends with, she's been applying to a couple jobs right now, and she's getting insanely great compensation offers. They need a technical accounting manager.
Yeah.
And it's tough to come by. So you kind of have your pickings, and she's got 2 different job options that she can choose between. And
that's amazing.
that's an amazing position to be in a time when right now the job market has cooled.
Super good.
But there are
always pockets of opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of opportunity when it comes into accounting. Yeah. So as far as like the business philosophy types go, because I like to talk about if you're the leader of a company, if you're a decision maker, what's the approach that you need to take? And so this is an article from computerweekly.com. Accountants predict AI-driven business will surge. Artificial intelligence looks likely to improve business, but ethics, data quality, and skill shortages remain barriers to take up. So the three takeaways from this article was that AI adoption in the accountancy sector could significantly enhance, this was a UK-based study,
Sure.
The UK economy by adding 2 billion euros to the GDP, creating 20,000 jobs, and increasing exports by 238 million. Crazy stats. A majority of accountants and bookkeepers view AI positively, with 61% seeing more opportunities than risks, as we said.
Yep.
68% are confident in incorporating AI into their operations.
Okay.
So this is,
Yep,
I think your bullish thing is maybe working out.
Yeah, it's all coming together.
And then challenges to AI implementation include the need for ethical safeguards, skill development, and high quality client data, alongside concerns about potential job losses and maintaining trust. So when it comes to this, there's a lot to, I think, digest in there. But the philosophy part of it, I think, really comes down to the conversations around ethical AI implementation.
Yeah. Is that how do you get people to trust AI, right? That people have a hard time trusting people. So how do we get them to trust these black boxes or even glass boxes that are more transparent? But how do we get people to feel comfortable giving over that sort of locus of control from a person to a computer? And that's the main thing. And that really is, I think, the one biggest hurdle on top of the educating people, training people how to use it. But I mean, that can be handled, right? Because companies have to train people anyway during the onboarding process. Every company has their own way of doing things. So adding in a AI platform to that is not going to, cause any major upheaval. It's trying to sort of get that across. And the only way to do that is to prove it.
Sure.
Right. And doing that, unfortunately, takes time.
Yeah.
Right. That the AI can be trusted, that the outputs are good, and that your information isn't being, fed into the AI on one end and then posted out onto the dark web on the other end.
Yeah. So I actually minored in philosophy.
Oh, okay.
Which is why business philosophy is a section very close to my heart.
Kind of makes sense.
And what I'm curious about is the philosophy behind the implementation of AI, in your opinion. Is it black and white, where so black and white is a very, Immanuel Kant was a big black and white guy.
Oh, wow.
So
it was talking about Kant today.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well,
Jeez,
right.
okay.
Right. Which is you do not lie. You
Yeah.
don't lie, you never lie, and that's it. It's very straightforward. You don't lie. There's no circumstance. You have on the other side, a utilitarian principle, right? Where I think that was Mills actually who kind of spoke a lot about that, where it's for the greater good, right? And whatever, there's a certain threshold where you do a cost benefit analysis and say, okay, it's worth the risk in order to do this. When it comes to AI implementation, is it more utilitarian or is it more Kantian? And what I'm thinking of is there's a lot of business benefit that comes for a leader to say, we need to get on AI, we need to start implementing this right now.
Yep.
And okay, well, it's 85% ethical, so that's good enough for us. Or is this the type of thing where you need to really be, like we talked about at the beginning with airplanes, right? With travel, does it need to be? There's no margin for error, really.
So I honestly say that. Well, first, there's this quote from Warren Buffett that I'm going to get it wrong, but I'll paraphrase it. That basically, he's always said that in your business dealings, don't do anything that you wouldn't feel comfortable having on the front page of the paper, the following morning. And so that's a good way to sort of overall try to sort of judge how you're running a business. But two, in terms of the black and white or of the greater good, right? So Kant versus Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say that it really comes down to the type of company being run, right? So for DALL-E, for image creation, if I'm trying to create a image and DALL-E occasionally, sources information and it's not quite ironed out over who controls what, is there any long-term damage to that to anybody? Possibly, but also possibly not. But if you're trying to use AI for industries like healthcare, insurance, educational records, title, taxes, that has to be right. And that always has to be right. So overall, I would say that I would steer more towards the Kant side of things.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying that because if you have a major failure of an AI program at any company, that single event could by itself push the whole thing back 5 years, right? So just a quick anecdote here. FTX, right? Crypto. That implosion and fraud has basically put the brakes on any sort of regulation here in the U.S. or going back further. Theranos, the blood sampling company, that company and the fraud of that company's operations hurt the whole blood sampling, blood analytics business. So it really comes down to one, as always, the type of information being handled.
Sure.
But two, in AI's case, right, because people already have trust issues with it anyway, and there isn't too much transparency in terms of how the average person understands it. I'd say it has to be more towards the Kant side to earn that trust, to earn that capital. Two, if in the future you want to push something through that's 85% right, 90% ethical, then that's okay because you've built up, the sort of stockpile of trust and transparency and goodwill, both of your employees and the market.
Sure. I'm speechless because it's,
Drew is speechless. This is the first, I think.
Yeah, nobody thinks about the lingering implications that go on when you have one instance that can completely put you back, like you said, multiple years at a time. And when it comes to the implementation of this, I do lean more into that Kant side, especially when it talks about financial data.
Yes.
Right? Lives are at stake. I mean, we saw what happens with an Enron sort of crisis. That's human-made.
It ruined lives,
And
Madoff, Enron, WorldCom, it goes on and on.
Yeah, and you can only imagine if there was a massive breach that AI spitting out bad numbers that could entirely tank someone's pension and maybe the money you never get it back type of situation. There's so many implications behind it. So when it comes to, I agree, when it comes to a low risk sector where whether the image has an extra finger or not is not gonna it's not brain surgery, right?
No,
and we always talk about that. But when there is material stakes involved, then you have to err on the side of caution.
Absolutely.
And ensure that whatever you're doing has been checked, it's verified, it's secure, it's private, it's ethical.
Yep.
And there's no cost benefit analysis. And I think I talk about this when I used to audit employee benefit plans. There was no materiality. It was zero. You had to get it right to the dollar because you're talking about an individual's contributions in a dollar. So 1 cent was a 1 cent off. That had to be figured out. Why is that a cent off?
Yep.
Whereas, of course, when you're talking about a large company with $100 million, you could have materiality of $10 million, and it's like, oh, we're off by a few million.
Petty cash fund,
right? It's whatever. But when you're talking about an individual person, then it has to be to the T.
Yeah.
I think this is a situation where with certain industries, it has to be to a T.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'd like to kind of finish things up with a section I call Make Meme Lull.
Okay.
And this is where I usually will pull a meme of some sort, something that's been circulating on the internet that's thematic about the topic that we're talking about or the theme, and just do a little analysis of the validity behind it in the breakdown. Also get a couple laughs for the people who are able to watch it at home. So this meme, for those who are just listening, is I don't know what the name of the image is, but it's the girl that's looking at
the house on fire.
She's giving that sly look while the house behind her is on fire, as if like, yeah, I did that. And it's so in the back, it's 5,000 years of accumulated human knowledge and know-how burning, and then ChatGPT just kind of giving the sly look over. And I think
I like it.
The implication behind this, I mean, my interpretation is that I'm concerned that we become too reliant on and not actually understanding the foundation and the base behind it. And it ties back to the notion of how reliant on technology are we going to be.
Yeah.
And if you forget how to build buildings, or if you forget how to do math, or you forget how to be creative, or any of these things because you're relying on AI to do it all for you, if there's one glitch,
it all comes crashing
it
down.
all comes crashing down. And nobody knows how to fix it. And I think it's really important that there is knowledge that is passed down through, like I said, this is 5,000 years of accumulated human knowledge, and we pass it down through storytelling, through experiencing, through apprenticeship. And again, it needs to be a tool that we work with to help us do those things more efficiently, to be more effective with it. But I always am concerned about if nobody could just rebuild a computer if the computers just
stopped
working.
Yeah.
You could rebuild it, but do you have any idea how to, like, if you were starting on an island, I always love this analysis. If you had to start on an island with all the materials in the world, but it's all completely raw materials, could you ever create a computer and you could spend your entire life doing it? You would never be able to even create a monitor. I don't think I'd ever be able to create a screen.
No, that would work.
That would work. I could control something on it. That's it. Forget about a computer. Just a screen where I can move something on that screen. Like, I think I might be able to get to maybe building a light bulb. I think a lifetime I could build a light bulb.
Yeah.
But if I'm starting from ground zero, because this knowledge has not been passed on to me, like we bank on people knowing it.
I always tell my students, right? And yes, that's 100% correct. And now I'm actually worried about that, actually, Drew. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And I always tell my students, right, that AI is great. And I can Google stuff now. I can chat GPT stuff, whatever, or Gemini, or any of them. Great. But if you're in a meeting or in a conversation and it's you and your client, you and your manager, then they're asking you questions and just having a conversation about the financials or the audit or whatever, that client or manager isn't going to want to see you asking ChatGPT every single question, right? You ultimately have to be able to have some knowledge, baseline knowledge of your industry, of your field, of your expertise, to have those conversations and to not only understand how to use AI, but to also have the context and the background knowledge to understand if those answers aren't quite right, or they aren't quite answering the question you want it to answer. So that's the real value add there for any sort of service-based industry, right? Law, engineering, architecture, audit. Automation is great, AI is great, but all of us have to have that baseline knowledge to be able to know how to ask questions and how to interpret the answers as they're given to us.
And I think that hinges on the fact that humans will always still desire human interaction.
Absolutely.
You can have as much HCI, human-computer interaction, as you want, but humans will still, no matter what. We talked about it in the pandemic. They said this is going to be the new normal or whatever, and a lot of things changed.
Yeah.
But we still crave hanging out.
Human interaction.
We didn't
face-to-face podcasting.
Yes, we didn't give up the metaverse. We didn't give up and say we're just going to go into the metaverse, right? Like, we still want to have that.
Yeah.
We still like to play the physical sport, not just the video game.
Yep.
We still want to shake someone's hand. People say, "Oh, it's a tradition. Tradition. It'll pass, right?" Oh, well, people just got to get used to the fact that people are going to be looking stuff up more often. I was like, there will be adaptations
to
an extent, but I think the human resilience to want to have that human. I want to be within 6 feet of another person and have that human connection, that transfer of energy that you can't fabricate through a screen.
No.
You can't create through AI. It has to be person to person. That's where that value comes from.
Absolutely.
Like, I can have the conversation with you without having to go look on a screen, and we can just speak person to person.
And again, I mean, that really goes back to your point earlier that it's a real opportunity, right? For people, be they in the accounting or other fields, but our field first of all, is that if you're able to harness AI to help you automate some of those lower level tasks, and you're still able to handle those face-to-face, in-person, sort of on-the-spot questions and conversations, you by default are automatically going to stand out.
Yeah.
In a majorly positive way.
Yeah, it creates a lot of opportunity for those who have that desire and that craving to go to stand out. Like you said.
and to hustle basically to do the in person, automate the rest of the stuff that I can automate, and then focus on the relationship building.
Yeah. And so the final one I have here, this is a section we were originally going to call it art or aren't. Oh yeah, this is again another funny pun. But this is it's a meme where the caption is AI will replace designers' jobs, and then you have AI accepting the job, and it's 4 images of AI generated handshake.
That's amazing.
And this is one of those notorious things: is how do you identify if it's art or if it's aren't art? AI can't draw hands well. No. For some reason, it can't get the fingers right. We've got an image of 2 hands shaking one hand. We've got 2 hands shaking each other with another hand.
Is there an extra hand in there?
In the middle, we have one there. It looks like, I don't even know, the hand size looks like a block, and it's not proportional, and you don't really know what it is you're looking at. So it struggles with that. So there's certain things I think to look out for, and this is again where we follow the professional skepticism. We do our due diligence. We pay attention to detail. One of my favorite accounting resume skills there is attention to detail.
That's important
because it's going to become increasingly important, especially now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that sort of takes me through our session today of the FinTech Flow, and we're here on the concluding cycle where I like to wrap things up with the sort of key takeaways. And I think one of them is that AI will not replace jobs. It will pick up the slack where people are being forced to do jobs increasingly that they don't want to do. Yep. And I don't know if you had any key takeaways.
Yeah, I would say that AI, it is going to automate tasks, but it isn't going to get rid of jobs or the roles that people fill. 2, it's a real opportunity, right? If you're in the field now, if you're in a managerial role now, it's an opportunity for you. And if you're coming into the field now, it's an opportunity also to leverage this automation to then sort of free up your own mental bandwidth, right? To focus on other projects. And also 3, AI and automation is ultimately going to help us provide better client service. I've been saying this for a long time. If everything in our clients' lives is personalized, customizable, and on demand, except us, that isn't going to bode well for us. And AI and automation is a powerful tool in our toolbox to help us sort of get up to speed, to have that personalized on-demand data, be it dashboards, audit reports, tax planning, wealth management, any of those fields. So yeah, I mean, it's a real opportunity.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Amazing. Your book's coming out later this year.
Yep.
And for anybody who's watching and wants to see more of us get into depth on blockchain, on artificial intelligence, we have Take Control 2024. We're featuring, I got Dr. Sean doing a fireside sit-down interview that's coming out in September. Yep. So make sure you attend that session. It'll be super exciting. We had such an amazing conversation about that. And I'm sure this is just the beginning because, even though you've been in this field for a decade, it feels like.
True. I mean, no. Don't tell them that.
Yeah.
I still have a youthful look.
Yeah. It is one of the things that now, it's having its moment.
Yeah, now it's hitting the mainstream.
And I mean, the fact that we're making content, it's important for me to make content about this. It's cool. I'm working for a fintech company that is investing in doing AI the right way, in implementing it ethically, which is why we've been rather quiet on it in order to ensure we're not just going to go out and hype it up as if it's the next big thing. It could be the next big thing, but it needs to be done correctly to carry through on the wishes. Like I said, it needs to do the thing that it say it's going to do and do it safely and ethically by ensuring privacy and security of data and all of that sort of stuff. So
100%.
We get into all of that sort of stuff at Take Control 2024. So make sure you go sign up for that. And I'm looking forward to future episodes with you, Dr. Sean. It's been great having you.
I'm too, Drew. Thank you again, man.
Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely.
Thanks for checking out the FinTech Flow. As a reminder, this episode is available for CPE credit, and you can get that at FloCademy or on the Earmark app. Details are in the description below.